What's going on, guys? This is Rob. If you guys enjoy my content, make sure you hit the subscribe button and make sure you hit that little bell so you never miss out on my sexy voice. Within the nation of Canada, near the Alberta-Saskatchewan provincial border, resides a small town known as Cold Lake. Founded in 1790 through the merging of Grand Center, Cold Lake proper, and Medley, by 1883, this community was met with the birth of James Howlett. The product of an affair between Elizabeth Howlett and Thomas Logan, the estate's groundkeeper, James was born a sickly child, appearing frail and prone to allergic attacks. Raised by his grandfather due to his mother's mental instability and his father's busy life, James' early days in the estate were rife with abuse. According to his grandfather, the weakness of James came from a lack of discipline, and by imposing his own abusive practices, looked to build his grandson into a man of courage, strength, and conviction. Indeed, James' only true reprieve from this harsh life came in the form of his friends, Rose O'Hara and Dog. Assigned to look after him at the request of James' mother and father, Rose was a warm and welcome reprieve from the abusive nature of his grandfather. And so going into their younger years, something akin to a romance blossomed between the two, a development which did not go unnoticed. The legitimate son of Thomas Logan, Dog had received his nickname owing to the treatment he received from his father, who viewed him as more of an animal than a son. Beating him fiercely at almost every opportunity, the life of Dog was one of torment. While he'd also developed feelings for Rose, the combination of this unrequited love and his inability to adequately express himself left him feeling neglected, ignored, and filled with bitter jealousy. Forcing himself on Rose in an effort to demonstrate his affection, the actions of Dog were reported by James, and after killing James' puppy in retaliation, both Dog and his father Thomas Logan were exiled from the estate. Left to survive without work in the harsh environment of the Canadian wilderness, Thomas grew filled with anger and vengeance. Arming himself with a shotgun and invading the Howlett estate, Thomas and Dog looked to leave the wilderness for a better life and take Elizabeth Howlett with them. In an effort to stop the kidnapping, John Howlett was killed by Thomas as James entered the room, and witnessing the harrowing scene unfold, something snapped in the mind of James, and as he fell into an animalistic state, slaughtered Thomas with his bone claws and scarred the face of Dog, after which James was exiled from the estate by his mother, who took her own life, and looking to forge his own way in the world, left everything but Rose behind. Finding themselves taking up work in a British Columbia stone quarry within the Yukon territories of Canada, James began assuming the identity of Logan. Finding his body growing as he entered puberty, Logan's changes included developing a healthy and ferocious personality, as well as enhanced agility, strength, and heightened senses. Gaining the respect of his fellow miners due to his work ethic, in February of 1907, the life of Logan had finally caught up to him. Tracking down both Logan and Rose to the quarry, Dog had looked to take his revenge for the death of his father and the scar on his face. Confronting Logan and with the two engaging in a fierce battle, Logan gained the upper hand and knocked Dog unconscious. Intending to kill him with his bone claws, Rose sought to prevent this, knowing the emotional toll it would take. But in his enraged state, Logan impaled Rose, and driven by grief and heartache, fled the quarry, running as far as he could into the depths of the Canadian wilderness, where he cast aside his humanity and threw in with a pack of wolves. On the other side of the world, Nathaniel Essex, now calling himself Mr. Sinister, had begun using his unnaturally long lifespan as a means to continue his research into the fledgling rise of the mutant population. Learning of a man in the Canadian wilderness whose strength, speed, agility, senses, and healing factor had become something of legend, Sinister set loose a genetically modified polar bear. Slaughtering the wolves in Logan's absence, upon his return, Logan and the bear mortally wounded one another in a fierce battle, and recovering due to his healing factor, Logan went forward, once again, completely alone. Following this, Logan spent the next 7 years as a vagrant, wandering from town to town throughout Canada and the United States, occasionally taking up work and continually falling in and out of love, all the while completely unaware that he was being watched by dangerous eyes. A being of old born during prehistoric times, Romulus stood as one of the world's most dangerous and oldest men. Having spent his life as a ruler of the Roman Empire, a warlord, a conqueror, and a master manipulator, Romulus watched as the early life of Logan unfolded and saw him as someone who could be molded into a highly deadly weapon. Thus, when Logan had settled down in the Canadian Rockies with Silver Fox, a member of the Blackfoot Native American tribe, Romulus dispatched Sabretooth to kill her on Logan's birthday. Discovering that happiness had eluded him yet again, Logan descended into madness, and after a lengthy battle between the two, left his nemesis behind, believing him dead, but being unaware of Sabretooth's healing factor. Turning his sights to exploration, for the next several decades, Logan roamed the world, encountering heroes and villains, sometimes fighting and sometimes saving them, all the while being manipulated by Romulus. In Kansas City, he encountered Mystique and her band of scam artists. In New York, he met Eric Brooks, a young vampire hunter. In Spain, he fought as part of their civil war. In Japan, he fought the Hand. And in Russia, he was trained under Taras Romanov, an agent of Romulus, where he learned the art of espionage. And so by 1941, following US involvement in World War II, both Logan and the newly created Captain America fought side by side in their efforts to thwart the merging of the Hand and Baron von Strucker's Hydra. Pulled away from his assignment at the orders of Romulus and reassigned to infiltrate Japan, with his location and mission passed by Romulus to the Japanese government, Logan was quickly apprehended and under the direction of Romulus was taken to a prison camp near the city of Hiroshima. There he found a friend and his cellmate, Lieutenant Ethan Warren. Unaware that Ethan was an agent of Romulus who continued his campaign of stripping Logan of everything he loved, when the two escaped and met a Japanese woman named Atsuko with whom Wolverine had settled down, Ethan returned and murdered the girl, after which Hiroshima was met with the results of the Manhattan Project, once again leaving Logan in isolation. By 1961, with the United States in the midst of the Cold War with the Soviet Union, Chang, a longtime friend of Logan and business partner for Landau, Luckman & Lake, maintained Logan's business ventures, while Logan in turn carried out missions for the firm in eliminating corporate rivals. Working largely in Ottawa, Calgary, South America, and Madripoor, Romulus had Logan recruited by the Central Intelligence Agency and began wiping his mind and implanting false memories. Going forward, remembering only what Romulus allowed him to, Logan had no recollection of his previous romantic interests or his children, and instead functioned as a cold-blooded field agent. Engaging in a series of wet work missions as part of Team X alongside Sabretooth, Silver Fox, Kestrel, Mastodon, and Maverick, the role of Team X served as part of a greater unit known as Weapons Plus. The brainchild of Romulus and developed by John Sublime using notes from Mr. Sinister, Weapons Plus served as an answer to the question of the mutant threat and the long arm of Project Wideawake. With the rise of the mutant population giving way to fears of a war with humanity, the US government covertly began looking for methods to contain and control the mutant threat. As such, Weapons Plus itself dated as far back as Weapon 1 with Captain America. However, with the perceived death of Steve Rogers, Weapons 2 through 9 were initiated and included bonding cybernetics to both humans and animals, as well as the study of mutant abilities and their various countermeasures. To this end, while Team X eliminated political threats as mandated by its charter within the CIA's Black Ops division, it also had multiple run-ins with mutants of interest to the federal government, including the young Charles Xavier and Eric Lyncher. Becoming one of the most successful, feared, and deadliest groups in the intelligence community, by 1967, and for reasons that were never made clear, Team X was banned by the CIA under the direction of Romulus. Believing that the events of his life had been systematically engineered, Logan went underground with little or no information being available on what he did during that time. And so by 1972, Logan had resurfaced in Canada as part of Department K. As the covert special branch of Canada's Ministry of Defense, Department K was based out of Ottawa and shared a number of joint missions with the CIA involving Neil Langram, Special Agent Nick Fury, U.S. Air Force pilot Carol Danvers, and CIA agents Richard and Mary Parker. Finally locating Logan during a mission, Romulus had Logan drugged with Thorazine, beaten, and taken to a Weapon X facility under the control of Doctors Abraham Cornelius, Carol Hines, and Truett Hudson. Experiencing sensory deprivation, mental reprogramming, and having adamantium bonded to his skeleton, the once morally questionable man was transformed into a murderous killing machine and given the codename Wolverine. However, where Romulus intended to use Logan as a mercenary for hire, Wolverine broke free of his programming and killed everyone in the Weapon X facility, with the exception of Malcolm Colcord, Carol Hines, Truett Hudson, and Abraham Cornelius, after which he left the facility and vanished into the Canadian wilderness.
I think that the origin that you gave Wolverine is one of the most brilliant origins ever, and one of the most provocative and mystifying, and it kept the readers on the edge of their seats for I don't know how many years, wondering how did it happen? What happened up in Canada? And I mean, it was just wonderful the way Wolverine almost single-handedly kept people fascinated by that book.